Hey guys, and thanks for joining us. Today we're going to do a video on the creepy stories from the comment section. We're going to highlight different comments that were left on previous videos from this channel. Make sure you stick around to the end because the last story actually relates to the woods that we're in right now, and it's pretty wild. Check it out. The first comment we're going to highlight is from user RooftopProm6214, and this comment was left on the missing person mystery video regarding Wayne Mitchell. I have a lot to say about this, and I'll keep it short. I know of 6 instances of disappearances in Washington State, if you include this story, which I am. So 6. All men. I know it happens in other states and provinces, but there's a high incidence in the PNW. It also happens with women, but to a much lesser extent. The victims vanish without a trace. They are expected home at a certain time and never show up. Their keys, vehicle, wallet, phone, tools, and other items of value are not disturbed. The man is never heard from again. Loved ones are devastated. These people are targeted, their routines watched for a time, then they make their move and kidnap them. These kidnappers make a very good profit. The victims are shipped to northern Canada for hunting games paid for by the super wealthy. This also goes on in Europe. Now, I know the woods in my part of the state, which is northeast Washington, right at the Canadian border. We still have the original homestead my great-granddad claimed. It's surrounded by Forest Service on all 4 sides. I know about wild animals. We have black bears, brown bears, and grizzlies. We have wolves and cougars. They don't bother you when you're working and making noise. This fellow was making plenty of noise. A wild animal attack is unlikely, and there would be lots of evidence. This first story reminds me immediately of the 2020 movie called The Hunt, where people are kidnapped and then released to be hunted by a group of wealthy elites. The movie, personally, I thought was great. It was entertaining, definitely worth a watch. The Hunt, however, is not the first story or movie to use this idea. I'm sure a lot of you remember growing up reading the story and watching the movie called The Most Dangerous Game, which is about an island that lures boats in, and after they shipwreck, the survivors are hunted by a guy that lives on the island. And the list goes on with other variations and ideas built off this concept of humans hunting other humans.
How fast can you run?
I think that guy wants to hunt me.
And the following comment was left by user Jaime Hurt 3530. They write, I've been on remote logging roads scouting before hunting season in Washington State and came upon 2 black Mercedes-Benzes with very dark black tinted windows and what looked like cartel drug dealers standing on the side of the road staring at me as I passed by. Totally out of place at 4,000 feet and in an extremely remote wilderness location, they got in their cars and started following me. Luckily, I knew the area and had a 4-wheel drive vehicle and took a grade road with big potholes and ruts that I knew they could not traverse in their cars and lost them. Very weird and creepy situation. Always pack heat, too. This story reminds me of an Inside Edition report I saw a while back where these 2 travelers who are birdwatching are stormed by dudes with rifles that jump out of a pickup truck that cuts them off. Being in the position that they are in, seated in a car, they are at a massive tactical disadvantage. If you've seen the movie Sicario, there's one scene in particular that kind of shows how much of a sitting duck you are when stormed by a bunch of dudes with rifles. While it's not illegal to drive Mercedes-Benzes on logging roads or even to stare at someone and then follow after they drive by, I would say it is strange to say the least, and we're glad that this commenter avoided any trouble that day. Alright, and our next comment is from user the Micro Business Renegade Poe 6338. And they wrote, I live in Canada. About 20 years ago, I was living near Vancouver, BC, and for about 2 or 3 years, it seemed like a lot of mid-20-something males were going missing in the area. A lot of the time, it was after the bars were closing. The males would leave work or go to the bar and never make it to their vehicles to go home. The cars were often found. I don't know if these cases were ever solved. Around this time, my husband was driving for a living, and one evening, he was up in Anmore, a forested suburb of Port Moody. It was about 9:30 p.m. He was on his way home, and he saw a truck pulled over by the side of the road. Two guys tried to get him to stop and were very aggressive. One was even in the middle of the road. He was scared to stop, and they yelled at him. They weren't very far from the main road and within walking distance to a gas station. He told me it felt weird. I don't know, just a story. Then she followed up with an update to my Anmore, BC story from a few minutes ago. My husband said there was actually two trucks. One had the hood up, like it was broken down, but the other one was optional. Super weird. The men got mad when he wouldn't stop and hopped in the working vehicle and chased him down the rest of the hill. My husband did lose them on the highway. He said both guys were tall and had dark beards and were both wearing black hoodies. Both trucks were jacked up pickups. This would have been just before the Vancouver Olympics, around 2008. Now this story is similar to the last one, but a big difference being that there's an element of a trap involved. A person waving down a car and attempting to get someone to stop out of goodwill and potentially trapping them or causing them harm. There are also YouTube and dashcam videos that I wasn't able to locate for this video, but show a similar scenario where there's a woman or someone standing on the side of the road waving down cars. When one does pull over, the car is immediately surrounded by a bunch of sketchy looking dudes. I think this strategy would probably be very useful and could definitely explain some of the cases from the men missing from cars phenomenon. Alright guys, and for our last story, this is from user Robert Parker 8863. And as I mentioned earlier, this story pertains to the area that we're in right now. He writes, "You're not far from where I had my first Sasquatch encounter / sighting, and where I've since investigated other reports. You are wise to leave. I'll try to keep this as short as possible. Just around anywhere on the north side of I-90 and east side of Mount Si, you might encounter Sasquatch. In 1967, me and 4 friends were camping on our little Honda and Yamaha motorcycles. We were fishing the outlet of a beaver pond on top of Mount Si when a 9-foot-tall Sasquatch stood up 39 yards away and screamed at us, twice. We yelled back at it. Eventually, it turned and walked off to the west, into the trees. In 1973, my friend and I went deer hunting on the eastern slopes of Mount Si. He went to work a clear cut while I paralleled him through the timber. In about 20 minutes of stalking, I was suddenly paralyzed by fear, by something I could not see or hear. No explanation, just unreasonable fear. I flipped the safety off my rifle and dove under a clump of vine maple, immediately rolling on my side to point the barrel back to where I had come from. There was nothing I could see. The next I know, I'm waking up. The fear factor is gone. I crawl out and look around, but find nothing. Years later, I become an investigator for the BFRO. In 2008, a report came in from someone saying that they'd had experiences with something throwing small rocks at their tent and vehicle. My wife and I went to meet them at this remote camping spot on the northwest of Mount Si, near the old trail to Sunday Lake. We explored the area with them and did find 17-inch long tracks. While we sat around the campfire, small rocks were being thrown at our vehicles. We kept hearing little tink sounds coming from our trucks. When my wife and I were ready to leave, we found a dozen or more small pieces of slate on the hood and roof of my truck. These are just a few things and seriously shortened for space, but I can tell you that anywhere in the woods around Mount Si and eastbound to the Bandera airfield area is very likely frequented by Sasquatch. So when I asked this commenter what the Sasquatch looked like, he said, like a bodybuilder, very large and well-defined musculature, slight sagittal crest, dark brown fur. Now, this story obviously caught my attention, and I think it's super interesting. You know, I've heard the North Bend area is a hotspot for Sasquatch sightings. There's actually a really cool documentary called Hunting Bigfoot that takes place in North Bend, and it focuses on a few individuals and their search for Sasquatch. There's also an app called the Bigfoot Mapping Project, where they collect all the reported sightings from different organizations and put them on a map. While Western Washington is cluttered with sightings, the North Bend area is no exception. Well, guys, that wraps up our first installment of Creepy Tales from the comment section. I really appreciated everyone who left a comment, and it's really fun reading through all those. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, take it easy. Peace. All right, and this next comment was left by Deanon the Keyman 1. On my way home the other night, I live in a back road in Maine that gets a decent amount of traffic, but it is by no means a busy area. At around 9:40 p.m., I turned a corner on my road and there was a car sideways in the dirt, headlights off. I also see a man outside the vehicle frantically waving his arms at me to get my attention. He even had his cell phone in hand with the screen really bright, waving it like a flare. I got about 50 feet past him and stopped. I rolled down my driver's side window and looked in my rearview mirror, and this guy was sprinting silently towards the back of my car. I effing gunned it and did like 70 the whole way home. I'm also a grown man. The entire situation just gave me the creeps. My hair stood up when I saw him running full speed in silence. Something was off about it, and my survival instinct went crazy, so I fled. I had my window down as I sped off, and he never even yelled or made a sound, just silently watched as I drove away. I asked around my neighbors the following weeks, and nobody heard of an accident or police report or anything that night, nothing. So I'm assuming the guy tried some stuff on me, and when it didn't work, he left my road. I'll never know for sure. The sound of his footsteps as he bolted towards my vehicle in the pitch dark set my survival alarm off.